Yes.
So I just want to apologize for how he. And I know better than to like engage in those moments because like I don't necessarily get out what I'm trying to say, and I feel like I did express it a little bit there, but with a bit more juice than I usually would like to.
Yeah.
So, I apologize for kind of like coming off like super combative. Yeah, I just wanted you to know that like it wasn't like there's no hate or like whatever. I understand this is a game, and you can see how quickly they're wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And me walking out of that room or trying to leave that room was because I know when I'm in that place, I'm like, I'm just like fired up. So,
Yeah. No, and I was getting fired up too because I just the sitting there on the bed, and then having you sitting there like this, like talking to me like that, I kind of felt like I was being talked down to, and there was an element of that I didn't really appreciate. And so like when you left, I was like, that's definitely for the best. Like we'll just kind of we'll have a sit down conversation after all of this kind of blows over. But yeah, no, man. Like last week was fucking hectic. To rehash it all 14 times over with everybody because So man. I don't know. I guess it's a bit of a tricky one because I don't know if maybe it's because we're similar in the sense of like trying to like really caring about the people that we trust in this game and really trying to like set ourselves up for success, that kind of stuff. And it was one of those things where I kind of felt alienated a little bit by the 7, but didn't necessarily know who I could trust because we're only fucking 10 days, or at the time, you kind of, those doubts are planted early by, and I'll say it by Moose, by somebody who I knew outside this house, had that level of trust with, that didn't have to be earned. I keep saying that, and already I'm hearing this person's coming after this person's coming, blah, 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 all within the 7. I'm like, okay, I'm washing my hands of this because this is something that I physically cannot deal with the stress of all of this shit. And obviously that, that comes to bite you in the ass when it's like, okay, well, I do trust these people. So these are the people that I trust. I don't have reasons to trust the other people apart from, like really your word kind of thing, which I know means a lot. And then, and then to kind of hear like, stuff was getting slipped about X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, I just kind of felt like I was like, fuck, who can I bring in on these conversations? Who can't I? And if I can't bring it in, if I don't know who I can bring it in, then, there has to be an element of making decisions that I think are best for my game right now. And kind of living with the consequences, which I currently am. The idea that this power drunk whatever, I think is kind of silly. I think it's a little bit misconstruing the whole week. You had a week 1 HOH. The decisions were a little bit more kind of clean cut. I've been lied to and manipulated for 3 weeks by different people who I was supposed to be aligned with, and now I'm trying to weed through all the bullshit. And then after the fact, to be painted as, when I'm just trying to kind of figure out where everybody lies. That's the whole point of HOH, is you're supposed to get information from people, and you're supposed to kind of like try to learn a little bit of where people are at and where the game's at. And as the week progressed, things only got muddier and muddier and muddier because people's information kept contradicting each other. I had to prioritize, okay, well, who do I have this level of trust with? Who have people that I trust are saying I can't trust? Like, there was a lot of bullshit that was thrown my way, a ton. And so I'm just truly trying to sit down and make, because I'm an emotional person outside of this house, and coming into here, there was this like, I'm like, oh my God, people and fantastic people, interesting people from all across this country. And it's like, and I kind of just found myself like, being like playing that happy-go-lucky role and being like, oh, like, I'm friends with everybody and I like everybody. And then the game kind of kicks in hard. And it was like, this week was especially one of those weeks where it was like, this day 1 alliance that was set up was super on the fritz. This retreat alliance that I'm being told again, you can't trust, you can't do this, you can't do that. These are numbers, these are whatever. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm feeling like every alliance that I have is either fake or I can't trust. So how am I supposed to approach that week? Am I supposed to go, okay, the people who I don't trust, who I know you are very close with, I go, hey, Hermon, tell me exactly what's going on. How can I trust that you're going to give me proper information? When you're seeming, like when I told you about the Moose thing, you went and talked to Moose, but it wasn't like you were particularly perturbed. It wasn't like...
No, I told you I was going to do it. So it
No, I
wasn't
know.
like something I did behind your back. I'm like I'm super direct, super upfront. If something comes up, all I had in that moment was your word, and I took it for what it was. But I also wanted to check in myself, and there was no information exchange from my end. I just gave Moose an opportunity to own it.
Yeah.
And he owned it. Like,
Yeah.
And it wasn't like something I was like, yo, let me see Kyle's lying.
Yeah.
And I'll figure it out. I literally told you I was doing it. That's
Yeah.
how I play, right? So like, and just for the fact that like, you hearing stuff about me and all this stuff, it's like, I never gave you a reason. I literally aligned with you in all 3 of my alliances that I ever created in this game. You were a part of all 3.
Yeah.
You were a part of something else that I wasn't a part of. I shouldn't trust you. You know
Which
what I
one?
mean? Well, just with you guys had a 4 with the boys.
Night 1, dude.
I'm just saying, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
you
dead
were-
by week 2.
You were a part of everything that I had going in this game.
Yeah.
So when I felt like you were turning on those things, it slightly felt personal. Not, It wasn't. I know it wasn't.
Well, no,
at
you
all.
said that I slapped you around as a man, so that's something I want clarification on too.
I felt like a slap in the face as a man. That's how it felt, because I felt like you asked me to buy in to about 3, 4, maybe different plans or actions.
As I was asked to the first week and second week, I felt.
I didn't ask you to buy it. I invited you into a thing. I thought you and Gino would be a great addition.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was an invite. You didn't have to do. I didn't.
No, I know, and I was
demand that you did it.
super all in, and then like 3-4 days later, I'm already hearing people talking about my name within this alliance.
I get that, but you can't flip it and say that I had asked you to do something. I invited you and I offered something, and you had all the rights to do it or not do it. The same way that I had to not do what you had asked me to do, but I bought in. I made that decision. That's not your fault. That's my fault. My decision was at the end to then not keep Steph, but I did buy into Moose.
Yeah.
I bought into the whole Betty thing.
Yeah.
I bought into Josh. I bought into Steph initially. So I had to go up to the 7. I was the face of telling everyone about the retreat, risking my game, but I did it for the squad, for the greater good. And I just felt like your decisions were never for the alliance, and maybe they were in your head, or maybe they were for the other guys, but not me. And I was a 4th member of it, I thought. So I was like, I'm making these decisions for the betterment of the boys and the squad, and I didn't feel like that was reciprocated.
Yeah.
And then
See, and then again, I would disagree in terms of, like, if you were the idea in my head, and granted, this is a game based on communication, and there was so much shit that happened this week where, the lines of communication were fucking blurred. I think there was a part of it, though, that I was like, well, I've been told by Marty that Helena is saying that Marty will come after, or Josh is coming after Marty, and if Marty's going up, then there's a good chance that either Gino or I goes up beside him, and those are the 3 people who you're supposed to be like, Final 4 with, so you should have no problem with kind of like this whole thing, but I shouldn't have assumed anything.
Helena, it wasn't even, no one told me that Helena had said that Josh, this is information I did not know. How can I even make a decision if I don't know that this side's shooting?
Well, how do I know what information you do and don't know, I guess, right? Like,
But everyone else knew in the group, or everyone, and you just assumed that you and Gino would go up. Why couldn't it have been me?
Because you weren't as close with Marty as Gino and I.
These are I just feel like these you were making assumptions on my behalf or for your own game, and I was supposed to be a part of this 4 and an equal member of the 4, and I just didn't feel like it, and I don't think Marty did either, to be honest. And I'll, that's a whole other thing. But I mean, it wasn't just me who didn't vote that way. So I know.
It was 9-2. I'm aware of that.
I'm just saying, with Marty being in the 4, right? So,
yeah, I know.
Okay, great. So that was my agitation with the whole thing, and I told you about that yesterday. So I mean, it is what it is. We're not beat a dead dog, but beat a dead horse. That's
Horse,
what it is.
definitely the horse. Beat a dead dog.
Yikes.
A horse isn't any better, but yeah.
No, and I'm not trying to keep beating this thing. I just wanted to apologize for coming off like that, and I never have conversations in my real life like that. I usually move myself and then come back.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do last night. In terms of I didn't really hang out with anybody last night. I kind of took my time. I wanted to clear my head. I wanted to kind of I got a great night's sleep. you know, I wasn't up yelling Tabernacle at 3 a.m. Like, you know, I was trying to make sure that everybody else got a good night's sleep too. Yeah, the one thing that I've definitely really thought about today is just the differentiation between game and personal, because that this week for me has been the toughest thing, and it's why I've been so out of sorts, is because I felt like a lot of those lines were blurred by a lot of people, and so it was one of those things where it's like, you know, I feel like a lot of individual people thought that they were taking the brunt of it, which is just like, which I was like, you know, Marty felt like he was taking the brunt, you felt like you were taking the brunt of it. There was, you know, I was having conversations with a bunch of people who were like, you know, feeling like they were owed something or deserved something or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, like, I don't know whether this is just like, I don't know what this part of the game is, but there was like 5 different people who are all feeling like they are feeling the full brunt of my actions, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how the hell am I supposed to, you know, I don't know whether it's like communicate all of this, or there's not this level of trust that people have in me that I thought they did, where it was just like, oh, like, you know, and I you know, in this game, like, I can't expect, and what I've learned is like, you can't expect people to just kind of be like, okay, yeah, you're operating with my best interests,
Right.
even though you're not necessarily communicating it. I just thought it was kind of one of those things, and again, that whole assuming thing is something that I'm going to work on, and this has been what a fucking learning experience as a person and as a player this week. Like, this whole thing was so eye-opening. So no, like, the biggest thing that I just kind of want to tell you is, like, you know, I do know that there's game and I do know that there's personal, even though that those lines got blurred by so many people this week, that it put me in this weird headspace where it was like, I just couldn't trust anybody. The only person who like was really, I felt like, giving me kind of reason to trust was G, just because he's like, dude, like, you know, I got you 100%. Like, the decisions that you're making, I know are for the best, like the betterment. Like, you're making decisions based on what you think is best for the 4 of us, and that's cool, and I appreciate that, and we're cool and whatever. It's like, great, awesome. Everybody else was like coming to me and saying the opposite. So it was weird. It was just, it put me in a weird headspace, and it was tough. Again, I'm rambling right now, but what I want to say is, like, there's game and there's personal. Yeah. What happened yesterday was game. You made a decision that was best for your game. It came at the expense of my game, but on a personal level, you know, I still care about you. I still think that this is, you know, an experience that we are sharing that is like super special, and it's, you know, it's so surreal and it's tense. Going on that it just hurt me. So that the only thing that I was kind of like, you know, looking forward to chatting with you about. You can make whatever decisions you want to make, but just when you said I like came at you as a man, I was like, okay, I'm gonna need some clarification on that, because you can't, like, after the week that I've had where I was berated and you know, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to be able to, and then at the end,
I never said that to you once.
no, but like, it just kind of as an, like, there was like, you know, if you want to, I'm kind of like looking at it as like a clump, as a whole,
okay.
where I'm kind of like, even with the smaller stuff, where it's like, you know, you got to communicate, you didn't bring me, you got to do this, you got to communicate better, you got to bring me in on this, you got to do this, and it's like, I'm trying, like, I'm trying to get it, but like, again, oh, but if you get everybody in a row, well, yeah, you can't do, you know, you can't do that, you can't do that. It seemed like every time I was trying to do something, it was the wrong thing to do, and the people that I was trusted were at the forefront of telling me that I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong. And that hurts, because I'm like, shit, like, you know, there's obviously not this level of, okay, Kyle, you know, of not even like, of just kind of like game respect, where it's like, okay, you know, Kyle might be making some decisions that I don't agree with, but, you know, I still trust that he's.
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there, and I was there. It just started falling apart. I just feel like, I think like when you're like leading like a little squad like ours too, like, there's something about being decisive and like knowing and having, even if you don't communicate, hey, this is my decision, I think this is what's best for the squad, I bought in. Like you said, Steph, I bought in. That was my flirt match, whatever you want to call it, right? So like, and when I, you know, there's something with that. And then when it becomes more and more undecisive, it becomes more and more unsettling for even people within your circle. It's like, well, then if that could happen, how could it not happen to me? And then the trust starts to go lower, right? But just to quickly touch on the game and personal, the only reason why I said that was like, I felt it started to feel personal was because even from my mindset, when I looked at it, I felt like you had essentially attacked every part of my game. Consciously or subconsciously, obviously, I don't think it was on purpose, but when it went from the retreat, that was okay. It was Steph at the time. I mean, even though Jace had won a veto and Steph had come second, not really won anything, she was seen as a bigger threat. I figured it was because Jace, you know, was with Gino and that was your dog, so I was like, that's fine. I get that. You can tell I've seen that like that way. But I bought in.
Yeah.
Exposed it to the 7. Then we went after Moose, which I understood. I got bought onto that. Then he wins the veto, and
that's
then,
when things really went to shit.
Then things went to shit, and then it was Betty.
Yeah.
and I was, I bought an actually, hobby shower from the same area, but I was, let's move on that. Let's just pull the trigger on that, and I'm cool with that. And then it just wasn't that again.
Yeah.
So like all those changes, finally I was like, okay. And then when it was Josh again with I know 7 was dead, but it still felt like it was still within kind of thing. Then that's when I was like, okay, now it felt a little more personal, and it was being painted as. I was being told that it was best for our game, but it was like you were also like, I'm going to do what's best for my game. So my game didn't feel like it was best for your game, and that's where things kind of, for me, started to like unravel.
Yeah, and I guess and I had that, and it's funny because it's like a lot of that, like I felt the exact same way towards like kind of like after the fact, thinking back on it and thinking like, in terms of you felt like I was attacking everything that you had built. Now I felt like you were attacking everything that I had built. So now it's like, it was like that, fuck, like, okay.
I thought they were the same things.
So did I.
To be honest. But I mean, I do feel like you drew blood. You drew blood first, like.
Of course.
And like 3 times, I felt like you drew blood, like.
Yeah, I mean,
the 7 was like, it wasn't even a thing. Like you were over it at that point. But I mean.
But it still was,
Yeah, and you had heard some stuff about me, but I feel like you hadn't addressed it with me at all. Like we had a lot of time in the same area, so I was like. And then when you came and talked to me right before comp, I was like, thought maybe that might have been a good time to like bring it up, but you just asked me kind of what I was thinking for the next week. So yeah, I just felt like you did have opportunities to address that, and then it got addressed when you were HOH, which made me question more stuff because you knew all this time that you were hearing this stuff and you didn't bring it up to me. And then so like this one after another after another. That's just how I looked at it.
No, and that's the thing is like I was also looking at it too, where like there was people who we were intimately connected with who were like Hermon is telling things to other people that like that we talk about kind of in confidence. So there was, of course, I was like, well, shit. This, and I knew that I took down like the 7, which was your your alliance that you started week 1. And so it was like, so there was this level of like, I have people that I really trust and who have been day ones who are saying, Hermon saying this, Hermon saying that. And so that's when, so then there was this level of like, listen, I am still like, I want to work with you. I've tried to make that abundantly clear that like, I still want to be here. I still want to work with you. I still want to do all this stuff. Even in light of people being like, you can't necessarily trust Hermon with everything. Hermon's more in the ears of X, Y, and Z than you think and all this stuff. And then obviously to have the flip happen, it almost validated that a little bit, which and then felt like, oh, like Hermon's kind of been playing me this whole time. Like this has not been like he bought out at the last second. It was like, oh, like, he was more using me as a tool versus actually wanting me as a ally.
So what's interesting about that is that like, Marty did the same thing I did, but I feel like you don't give him the same, you don't put him as at fault as much as you are for me.
Marty doesn't have the same level of influence that you do.
Okay. So our votes are the same. I do feel like our actions were the same.
Oh, trust me, I've talked with Marty.
I'm just saying, right? It feels heavier, like when you're looking at me, because I was supposed like we're in the same 4 alliance, and the 2 people in it, me and Marty didn't end up voting that way. So like, I just hope that the same thing that you're feeling about the way I voted, you're also feeling towards Marty, because there's nothing I did that was different than what Marty did.
Well, what you did do differently that I've been told is that Marty was one of those people who went along with everything, but in terms of the actual flipping all the votes, I was told that it was you. That you were the catalyst behind a lot of the, Kyle is this, Kyle is that, Kyle, we can't let Kyle take Josh out. Kyle is this, Kyle is that. So, and that's just what I've been told. Yeah. And granted, I've also been fucking lied to the entire week. Yeah. So like, is that take it with a grain of salt? No, but do I think that Marty also like that people saw a seed of doubt with Marty, and knowing how great of social manipulators a lot of people are in this game, saw that and went, yeah, I absolutely do think that.
Just to keep it a buck with you, I had no idea about Marty. I had no idea about Jess. I had no idea about Helena. I had no idea about Kevin. And I really thought
So who told Helena to flip the vote 2 minutes before?
2 minutes before?
Yeah, Helena was told 2 minutes before.
Did she tell you that?
Yep. Was told 2 minutes before that the votes, that it's not vote out Josh anymore, or it's not vote out Josh anymore, it's vote out Steph. And Helena didn't give a name, but there was enough people who were kind of saying that, you had a lot of say in the decision that was made, that it makes me believe that it was you.
If I had the power to flip
I think you do. I think you do. You have the whole. You have
I do
so
not,
many
I do not
influential
think
people in
I
this
can
house.
go and say, hey, it's Steph, and then I go in and say, yo, it's Josh, and everyone jumps on. I think these are grown-ass people. If you think that it's a 2-minute thing beforehand, and if it was a 6-5,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Say that was me, 100%. I could
Yeah.
convince Helena to flip maybe 2 minutes before if I really wanted to, and just like promise the world. It wasn't 6-5.
No, I know.
There's no way I could. There's no way that this was my brainchild, and I could convince everybody to flip on a drop of a dime. And even if I convinced Helena, and you had everyone that still was on board, it still should have been.
No, I listen.
You know what I mean?
The Jess thing makes sense because Jess, at the end of the day, has lost 2 people that they were close with. I understand that one just on like the game level
Did
or whatever.
they tell you?
Yeah.
That they were voting to keep Josh?
No.
The opposite.
No.
Right.
Yeah, and then flipped, and then afterwards, like we sat down, and they basically just kind of like laid it all out for me. They were like, Steph, just as a human being, was not good for my game. Josh, I just needed to like last week. I didn't vote for Jay, and then there were some people who were tossing, fake votes and that kind of stuff, and. And I just decided that like from now on, like I have to vote where I see best for my game, and what was best for my game was Josh, not Steph. Steph changed her tune this week towards everybody. First couple weeks, it was like Steph was on an island, and then changed her tune. So it was like, I understand that like a lot of people were like, why the fuck would I vote to keep Steph? Why would I vote out the nicest human being in here? Right. And that was one of those ones where like I understood that, but. Dude, all I know is literally nobody's kept it a fucking buck with me this entire time except for the guy sitting in the HOH right now. And it is definitely one of those things, like game relationship wise, it is certainly tough to kind of trust like anybody at this point. But especially like, dude, I'm telling you, your name's being thrown around a lot. Yeah. And people are really kind of trying to peg this on you. And granted, is this another, not I'm saying it's moose, but I'm saying like, is this a mooseism where it's like, hey, you should look at Hermon before you look at me, because people are still trying to get big people to weed out big people. Absolutely. So that they can kind of coast right through the middle.
And I'm seeing that. Like, that is like,
big time.
And I'm just like, when you watch this back, or when you watch like the show and you're like, why are these guys, or why are these people shooting at each other?
I know.
When everyone else just gets to, that's what I said, like, even when I said, Jess is going to have to pick a side, Kevin's going to have to pick a side, Helene's going to have to pick a side. And right now they're not really being forced to, and everyone's being allowed to kind of meddle. You know what I mean? So, and so, I don't want to take shots at you at all. Like, there's nothing like, it's 100%. Like, with what we built, like, or what we were building initially, even the first, that was genuine as fuck. Even midway through last week, it was completely genuine. And then I just felt like I felt a little bit like used, and I didn't feel like a part of it, right? Yeah. So that's when things changed, but everything was real, 100% real. I was loyal to a fault, and I told Gino the same thing, I told Mario the same thing. So that can't just be replaced. Like, I can't just have someone I just start talking game with today or yesterday and then be like, this feels better than what we had. Because you can't replace 2.5 weeks. Yeah. So, like, I'm not looking at you. And I'm not trying to sit here and try and shoot at each other until like, and have it be like a, who can shoot first or last or whatever, and have everyone else coast through and have some dog shit finale. Like, I'd rather have all of us just like gooning it out, like top 8, top 9, the exact same way I wanted the first time. But everyone, the one thing I've realized is everyone's, regardless of how significant or insignificant a player may seem, their vote counts the same. 100%. And it's like so powerful to have a vote in this house. Yep. And I'm just trying to make sure I stay, humble with that. Yeah. This week it's 6 again, 5 with a tie. Yeah. And it's like, that's a lot of people to move in one direction. And right now it feels directionless. Like, yeah, you're telling me. My God. I don't feel like there was we were saying sides. I really don't even know if there's nothing. Sure as fuck doesn't seem like it. No, it's like a big blob of people again. Yeah, so. And granted, this was obviously best case scenario for me, because fucking, you want to talk about head on a chopping block. I mean, I was painted in a pretty negative light this week, and so my game would have been very much at risk if somebody that didn't trust me had have won. Yeah. I guess that's kind of another just kind of point where I'm just like, fuck, like, something as simple as just kind of like, pain, like I've seen how easy it is to get in a person's position, like a power, and just like all you have to do is drop a seed sometimes. And it's like, maybe when your circles are too big, sometimes it's like easier, to drop seeds than not. But man, I don't know. It was one of those things where like, I think you're right about that big thing, the bigger group thing. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to lose this thought that when you're in a bigger group like that, it's harder to get everyone together. So the conversations are more
broken telephone kind of thing.
Yeah, and then it's like stuff can get, you know, kind of misconstrued that way, or more emphasis can be put on something. Whereas if you were in that room, it's not as big of a deal.
Everyone can kind of consensusly,
They're not gonna push for that, right? So, anyways, bro. It's
fucking messy.
You know, it's still, honestly, bro, I don't know if you feel it, I still got love for you.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like
100%.
Personal, like, so I know in this game shit went left.
Fuck. Yeah, I probably had genuinely one of like the worst weeks, like in terms of an HOH. Like, god damn, that thing was fucking brutal.
It was a tough one.
It was a very tough one. It was tough, but you know, that's one of those ones where you take it on the chin and you fucking bounce back. Like, I'm not gonna fucking dwell on this next week and the week after, whatever. Like, I'm gonna continue to make decisions that I truly do feel are still best for the people around me and the people that, because I really was trying to do that this week. People can believe it or not. I know you obviously don't really necessarily believe that, but you don't have to. Every decision that I was making, genuinely, I was looking at it from how can I set up the Village Voice for Final Four, and you know, granted, call it trying to win the game in week 3, call it whatever you want, but you know, there was
I was skeptical on like winning out. I was like skeptical on that because I still understood that there are people here that you got to try and, you know, bring along, you know, to try and, you know, for your votes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So winning out, I mean, if you look at it, all 4 of us have won.
I know.
The first 4 weeks.
I'm
very aware.
I'm very aware of that. 100%. When Gino won, I was like, well, there you go. Like, you know, if Josh had left this week and Gino won this week, there, like, everything would have been, you know, in terms of power, we would have had it completely. But I understand that that's one of those things where I was painted as, you know, King Kyle, Tyrant Kyle, and people don't want to necessarily play in a kingdom, and never thought that that's what it was. But that's, you know, anyway, that's game. I fucking love you on a personal level. And, you know, game, the thing that I will tell you is I'm willing to communicate going forward and try to rebuild this game relationship, because obviously, like, you know, I've had too many people say your name over the past 24 hours to say that, like, oh, like, you know, I can 100% hop right back in and trust you again, because it does seem like, and then you've obviously said that it felt like I was coming after everything you built. It felt like you were coming after everything I built, and those are things that you can't patch up in 24 hours in a game that's like, you know, you got $100,000 on the line. You got, like, you know, I felt manipulated to shit this week by everybody that was around me. There's so many game relationships that I need to rebuild. But like the best thing that I can tell you is that I truly do, like, I care about you as a person. I hope that you, like, you know, if you need to talk, like, please, like, talk with me. And on a game level, like, I don't want to burn that bridge. Josh made a good point. I talked to him down today, and he's like, and he said kind of something similar, where he's like, there are people in here who are just bodies. They're bodies. And I'm like, and is there an element of it where it's like, I guess I just didn't necessarily believe too much in a ceasefire. I didn't believe that if I really took a small shot this week,
that's what I was hoping, like, that's what I was, like, hoping for.
Yeah.
You know, so we could, like, weed it out a little bit.
Well, I just, you know, it was one of those things where I was, like, looking at it going, like, there are a lot of really strong players in this game, and why would I, and Josh had the same thing. He's like, we basically had the 7 strongest people in a room.
Yeah.
And why, like, there's this element of, like, why wouldn't you want to weed out those people? Because it's like, yeah, you could bring yourself down the road, but who, like, you know, there's always this an element to this game of shooting first and being the first one to draw the pistol, because this is a game that, like, is a little bit backhanded. It's a little bit backstabby, and there is that element of, like, you know, self-preservation, where it's like, I'm surrounded by 7 of the strongest players, a few of which I don't know how much I can trust. So why would I ever believe that and why would I ever believe that the 7 goes to Final 9? Because of just that, like, level of strength in that room, and all the eyes darting around and being like, you know, you're kind of like hovering over your holster, you know what I mean? And you're like, I know that you guys are all really strong, and are one of you going to take me out? Because one of you are going to take me out, I'm going to take you out first, kind of thing. So there was that element of all of that. All of this is really, I think, kind of where it really comes down to. And then obviously already having that preconceived notion of, like, why would you want, as a strong player, to have, like, to not better your chances, like, early game kind of thing. You know, and then hearing already having that level of, like, this is way too many strong, and Josh did the exact same thing. And it's like, you're looking around going, there's way too many strong people in here. Like, and then I mean, I'll keep referring back to Moose, because Moose is going to continue to be somebody that, like, the guy just played me like at like an absolute fucking fiddle for the first 18 days, 16 days of this house kind of thing.
Right.
But then to have him within the first week be like, hey, by the way, she's already talking about Gino, and this is, and Josh is talking, and Josh is talking about Marty, and then blah, and I'm like, fuck. So it's already started. Like people are already people are already reaching for their gun,
Right.
and then that's where it all kind of goes to shit. Where it's like,
just so you know, I've genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I don't know if it means nothing, but I really felt that we could have. Hey.
What's up? Oh, I like that top.
That's nice. I genuinely felt that that no one would have shot.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Like, yeah.
And if you say that I have as much influence as you think I have, then it could have been an asset in that scenario or situation. I really feel like it could have.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at this point, but that's where my head was at, and I was so locked in on that.
I know.
That's why when it didn't start to go that way right away, like it was like retreat. I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it wasn't, then I was like, okay.
I know. Yeah.
Anyways, that's where I'm at. But I appreciate you chatting, and I'm not trying to do no tippy toe shit around the house. Like
no.
We could still
For
chop
sure,
it up.
fucking bed together.
Oh, I mean, it's pretty intimate. So.
It is pretty intimate. Yeah. No. Listen, man. This is one of those things. Like this is game. This is the game, and it is tricky because like in a game that is so intricate, like literally like every conversation you have has implicate. Like it's so deep, and it's so like that's the beauty and the chaos of this game is that like because it's like you're playing a strategy game. That's a team game, but also individual, and you're also playing it with 14 other people who are doing the exact same thing. So it's like the amount of like layers kind of thing that you have to get through is so absurd. So I don't know. I guess the biggest thing that I can do is just kind of like lead through action. And this week was one that was kind of predicated by a lot of other external factors. Some of it was like the Moose thing. I genuinely thought that was. The HOH up until Moose 1 veto was pretty clean. I was like, okay, like that all makes sense. Moose is trying to, destroy this thing, blah, blah, blah. In terms of a ceasefire, like he's trying to light the fuse kind of thing. And then just from there, things just kind of like compounded, got worse and worse and worse in my head. And it was just like, who can I trust? Who can I trust? Who can I trust? And then it got to that point where it was like, I really was like, the only person I can trust is me. And, and so it kind of...
It's a lonely place to be. Like
it is.
It is nice to have, a few people you can lean on.
Yeah. But I understand, man, honestly.
Cool.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the chat.
Of course. I got you.
Big time. This is yours, hey?
Yep. Yeah. I just want to make sure it was dry.
No, you can leave it. I just couldn't find mine.
Are you showering?
Yeah, I think so. How the fuck I got 2 towels here?